Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dissect an absolutely bizarre paradox of human psychology. We really like to think of ourselves as highly logical creatures, right? Like we naturally seek out comfort, we run far away from pain. Well, hold on to that thought, because today we're looking at some fascinating research that completely flips that assumption right on its head.
Let me ask you something. If I offered you a choice right now, would you rather guarantee that you get a painful electric shock, or would you take a gamble where you might avoid it entirely? What would you choose? I mean, your immediate instinct is probably screaming to take the gamble. Obviously, we want to avoid the shock at all costs. It seems like a total no-brainer. But as we're about to see, science reveals a deeply counterintuitive truth about how our brains actually process this exact scenario.
Section 1. The Paradox of Pain. Instinct versus Reality. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand our weird kind of irrational behavior when it comes to a choice like this, we actually have to look past the physical sensation of pain itself and examine a much more fundamental human instinct. Humans absolutely love certainty. We constantly crave familiarity. I mean, it is quite literally hardwired into our minds. We're perpetually trying to predict the world around us, because a predictable world, well, that feels like a manageable world. And here's the crazy part. Even if the thing we're predicting is completely unpleasant, our deep-seated craving for certainty means we often prefer the comfort of knowing exactly what's coming over the terrifying vastness of the unknown.
Section 2. The Electric Shock Study. Testing our limits.
So let's look at the actual science and see how this builds. Researchers designed a truly fascinating psychological experiment to test exactly how far our love for certainty actually goes when we're put under pressure. What they did was split their volunteers into two distinct experimental groups. The first group, on the left, they were told they would definitely receive an electric shock, and it would happen at regular, predictable intervals. No surprises whatsoever. The second group, over on the right, was told they might receive a shock, or they might not receive one at all. They were left completely in the dark. And hey, as a quick aside, you really got to appreciate the sheer absurdity of the brave volunteers who saw a flyer for an electric shock study and thought, yes, absolutely, sign me up for that. It's wild. But their wild participation gave us some incredible data.
Section 3. The Agony of Suspense. Which group suffered?
I want you to mentally place yourself in the shoes of those participants for just a second. Go ahead and guess the results. Which group do you think actually suffered more overall stress? The ones getting predictably zapped on a schedule, or the ones playing a nerve-wracking game of chance? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the complete subversion of what we naturally expect to see. The data clearly shows that the group receiving the definite electric shocks at regular intervals actually experienced significantly lesser stress. Meanwhile, the group sitting in suspense, not knowing if or when the pain would come, experienced vastly higher levels of anxiety. The hopeful possibility of getting no shock at all didn't comfort them in the slightest. The suspense literally tortured them.
The study summed it up perfectly right here. The suspense of not knowing what happens next made them more anxious. Let that really sink in for a moment. The pure, unadulterated agony of the unknown is vastly worse for our minds to process than navigating guaranteed physical discomfort. It turns out our brains would literally rather handle the certainty of actual physical pain than handle a terrifying psychological cliffhanger. Isn't that wild?
Section 4. The Power of Preparation. Why certainty wins. Let's unravel the psychological why behind these wild results. Why on earth is guaranteed pain somehow the less stressful option? Well, the crucial concept here is mental preparation. When the first group knew exactly when the painful shock was coming, they were given a psychological gift. They got the ability to prepare. So the crucial point is that knowing exactly when pain will strike allows the brain to arm itself. Being certain about a negative event in advance gives your mind the time and the space to brace for impact. You can tense your muscles, take a deep breath, and mentally fortify your defenses. But the suspense group, they had none of those defenses. They were stuck in a constant, exhausting state of high alert, totally unable to prepare because, well, they didn't know what on earth they were preparing for.
Section 5. Embracing the Inevitable. Everyday Applications.
Now, we need to bring these findings directly back into your everyday life. We know that humans fundamentally crave certainty over the unknown. We've learned that the suspense of a maybe generates much higher anxiety than the guarantee of something actually painful. And finally, we see that certainty's secret power is providing the space to mentally prepare. This brilliantly illustrates the incredible lengths our minds will go to avoid suspense. It completely explains why waiting for a difficult text message reply or sitting outside the boss's office before a performance review often feels so much worse than the actual bad news itself. The waiting is the true punishment.
I want to leave you with this provocative final thought. Knowing this,
How much of your own stress is just the agony of suspense? Think about it. Next time you find yourself spiraling with anxiety about an impending situation, ask yourself if it's the actual event you're afraid of or simply the exhaustion of waiting in the dark. Sometimes, simply acknowledging that your brain is just crying out for certainty can be the very first step in taking your power back. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you navigate the suspense in your own life.